Good evening, I'm Pallavi Ghosh. Two pictures stood out today. While over here, the national capital in the Ramlila Maidan, it was a massive show of strength by the Congress party where Rahul Gandhi led a halla bowl against the government on price rise and inflation. And amidst cheers of people demanding that he come back as the Congress president, far away in Jammu, Ghulam Nabi Azad, the latest to leave the Congress party, had a halla bowl on Rahul Gandhi, questioned the Congress party, also accusing Rahul Gandhi and his coterie of running politics through Twitter and their social media. And that's the question which we are asking this evening is, will Ghulam Nabi Azad's Halla Bowl overshadow the Halla Bowl rally and Bharat Jodo Yatra of Rahul Gandhi? Well, what we are talking about is a massive rally which was held at the Ramlila Maidan against inflation and unemployment. In fact, speaking at the Ramlila Maidan, Rahul Gandhi said that ever since the BJP came to power, anger and hatred has increased. Ghulam Nabi Azad also took a dig at Rahul Gandhi, and we talked about it. He also congratulated him for taking up issues of inflation and unemployment, but after 8 long years. But BJP was no one to remain silent. Sambit Patra hit out at the former Congress president for his comments on inflation and unemployment. In fact, Sambit Patra said that this rally was more of a Parivar Bachao Andolan.
जब से बीजेपी की सरकार आई है तब से देश में नफरत और क्रोध बढ़ता जा रहा है। हिंदुस्तान में डर बढ़ता जा रहा है।
स्वाभाविक है, जो लोग भ्रष्टाचारी थे, जो लोग भ्रष्टाचारी हैं और जिनको लगता था करप्शन इज देयर बर्थराइट, एंड टू गेट अवे फ्रॉम करप्शन, to get away from the institutions of India is their entitlement, कि उनकी entitlement है, उनके ऊपर कोई जांच नहीं होगी, तो स्वाभाविक है वो आज डरे हुए हैं।
वो अपना काम करें। चलो बहुत बहुत मुबारक उनको, 8 साल के बाद तो याद आया महंगाई और रोजगार। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Okay, so that was Ghulam Nabi Azad also hitting out at the Congress party and at Rahul Gandhi. He also revealed his future plans.
आजाद साहब, आज पहली बार आप कांग्रेस से अलग होने के बाद जम्मू एयरपोर्ट पहुंचे हैं, जम्मू कश्मीर के दौरे पर पहुंचे हैं।
कश्मीर में पहली दफा
जी, तो पहले के गुलाम नबी आज़ाद में जो कि कांग्रेस के नेता थे और आपके गुलाम नबी आज़ाद में जो जम्मू कश्मीर के दौरे पर हैं, क्या फर्क है?
नहीं, इंसान तो मैं वही हूँ। तो मेरी कोशिश रहेगी हमारे सीनियर साथियों की वजह से, जो वक्त मेरे साथ काबीना में थे, कैबिनेट में थे, उससे पहले भी कैबिनेट में दूसरे मिनिस्टरों और मेरे बाद भी कैबिनेट में दूसरे चीफ मिनिस्टरों के साथ रहे मेरे काबिल लोग सब। मुझे इस बात की खुशी है कि जितने भी एक्सपीरियंस लोग थे, काबिल लोग थे, मिनिस्टर जो रहे हैं, एमएलए रहे हैं, वो सब हमारे साथ आए और हम सब मिलकर उस अधूरे एजेंडा को पूरा करेंगे। वो जम्मू कश्मीर की जो खुशहाली का सपना था, जो टेक ऑफ हुआ था, आधे पे पहुंचा था, लेकिन आधे पे वो खुशहाली कुछ लोगों को पसंद नहीं आई। नेशनल में अभी समय है इलेक्शन को 2 साल, अभी तो फौरी तौर पर जो जल्दी है, ज़रूरत है वो जम्मू कश्मीर की। यहाँ तो पिछले 1 साल से चल रहा है, कब इलेक्शन होगा, कल होगा, परसों होगा, तो ये किसी वक्त भी इलेक्शन हो सकता है। और हमने ये कदम इसलिए भी लिया कि कांग्रेस का हाल जो हम पिछले 8 साल से पूरे देश में देख रहे हैं, 49 असेंबली के इलेक्शन हुए, कई उनके तो 2-2 बार हुए ना, इसलिए 49 हुए, उसमें 39 हम हार गए। और जो 49 भी हुए, शायद पहली दफ़ा जीते, दूसरी दफ़ा वो भी हार गए। अब पूरे उन 49 में से सिर्फ हम 2 स्टेटों में रहे हैं, उसका मतलब है 37 हमसे चली गई। तो इससे पहले कि और कुछ बाकी भी जाएं, तो हमने सोचा कि अपना घर बनाएंगे, अपनी मर्ज़ी के हिसाब से घर बनाएंगे सबकी, जिसमें सभी ईंट रखेंगे, कोई रेत नहीं रखेगा। अभी नेशनल लेवल पे तो सभी रेत जोड़ने वाले हैं ना। रेत, खाली रेत से मकान नहीं बनता है, उसमें सीमेंट भी लगता है, उसमें ईंटें भी लगते हैं, पत्थर भी लगता है, उसमें स्टील भी लगता है, आयरन भी लगता है, तब वो मकान खड़ा होता। हम रेत से मकान वाला बनाना नहीं चाहते हैं।
Well, हम रेत से मकान नहीं बनाना चाहते हैं, हम अपना घर बनाना चाहते हैं. So will Ghulam Nabi Azad make Congress bigger? That's the question we are asking this evening. Joining us this evening, Tuhin Sinha of the BJP, Arshpreet Singh of the Congress Party, Sandeep Ghosh, political commentator. Thank you very much for joining us. But I'm going to start with the Congress Party first. Arshpreet, do you get this sense that it was a deliberate choosing of date by Ghulam Nabi Azad? You had your massive Halla Bol rally in the national capital, but there in Jammu, Ghulam Nabi Azad was not letting you rest in peace.
See, number one, Mr. Azad has proven through his statements that he has double standards. He said the Congress party hasn't been doing much from the last 8 years, from the last 9 years. Then why did Mr. Azad not raise his voice back then? Number two, why did he not quit the party? Number three, you know, it is but obvious that the Congress party is too big a party. We have lakhs and crores of people in it. And it is not the leaders that matter. It is the ideology and the workers of the party that matter. A bucket going out of the sea wouldn't make much of a difference. However, we appreciate the amount of democracy and freedom of speech and expression our leaders can exercise. Even after leaving the party, they can speak about it. Unless it is the BJP. You know, you cannot speak no matter what. What the BJP did with Mr. Advani after, Mr. Modi used to touch his feet. We stopped seeing Mr. Advani in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha in any press conference. Nowhere he could be seen. We have seen the amount of dissent that the BJP party entertains and how much, freedom people are allowed to speak. Unless you have your surname as Mr. Modi, you cannot speak. Only Mr. Modi can speak. Nobody else in the party has the freedom of speech and expression. And number four, the leaders basically who are giving us examples, who are, giving us lectures should just see one thing. That the last chain of rallies and events and protests that the Congress party has been putting up, they have been massively successful, that have resonated with the entire country. So I'll just say one thing, that Congress party will come back stronger and better than ever.
Okay.
And time will testify to this statement.
Arshpreet, a couple of points here which I'm going to come back to you on. First of all, Ghulam Nabi Azad says he did raise it earlier within the party forum, CWC. For 1 year, no effort was taken. Second, we'll have to wait. The real test on whether you're going to come back is actually going to be on the Gujarat and the Himachal elections. So we'll have to wait and watch. Third, you're going to point a finger at the BJP or the Advani issue. Ghulam Nabi Azad and many seniors like him also say that with Rahul's time, we are also being pushed out. But I'm going to be fair enough and give you a chance to speak on that. I'm going to get in a word from Tuhin Sinha from the BJP. Mr. Sinha, I just straight question. If Ghulam Nabi Azad tomorrow wants to come and join the BJP, is he welcome? One. And if he does so, aren't you going to essentially strengthen this argument of the Congress party that you dictate to people, those who don't even join the BJP but leave the Congress party on the choosing the timing? Was the BJP responsible for telling Mr. Azad that Aaj hi rally karo in Jammu when Rahul Gandhi is going to do it in the Ramlila Maidan?
Well, good evening, Pallavi. Good evening to all your viewers and to my co-panelists. Well, I think you need to realize that the Congress is a sunken ship, and whether today it is Ghulam Nabi Azad, but over a period of the last 3 years, this has been happening. Please don't underestimate Ghulam Nabi Azad so much that today you are insinuating motives and thinking that BJP is responsible for his rally. I think a time comes when everybody has to think about his future. And today, Congress people can still insist that, everybody within the Congress wants Rahul Gandhi to be their chief, but then the size of that Congress has shrunk to 1/4 of what it used to be. So if it is happy continuing its losing spree, God bless them. As far as your other question is concerned, it is very hypothetical in nature. It is for Mr. Azad to take all decisions regarding his political future. And, in politics, we can't predict what his decision would be, what the results of a future elections in Kashmir would be. But we would take a decision in the interests of the state, in the interests of the country, as we have always taken. I think there are two things which should ideally bother Rahul Gandhi today. One is the complete collapse of law and order in the remaining Congress states, whether it is Rajasthan or Jharkhand, and two is the mass exodus of all responsible leaders from his party. But instead, he's back to his antics and to his gimmicks just to ensure that he gets re-elected as Congress president and Shashi Tharoor does not compete with him.
Oh, Okay, that's the first I've heard. Okay, let me just go across to Sandeep Ghosh. Sandeep, if you look at, say, Captain Amrinder Singh, he was hurt. He set up his own party. He himself lost from Patiala. Now, Ghulam Nabi Azad is testing the waters by starting his own party. It's all very well to say this Congress is a different Congress. It doesn't matter to us. We are hurt and all. But is that enough for, say, an Azad to actually win elections and provide a challenge to a national party like the Congress party? And do you think then, Sandeep, Congress may end up having the last laugh?
Since you raised about Captain Amrinder Singh, it doesn't matter whether Captain Amrinder Singh was won or lost, but what happened to Congress in Punjab? If after dumping Captain Amrinder Singh, Congress had won Punjab, all these arguments would disappear. But the fact is, Captain Amrinder Singh pointed out to a certain symptoms or a certain ailment in Congress, and that is what needs to be addressed. Captain Amrinder Singh is not so much of an issue, just like Ghulam Nabi Azad may not be of an issue. He's past mid-70s, and he could be having a limited shelf life in politics. But the issues which he is raising, I think that is much more important. It is not important, as our friend from Congress said, that whether one bucket goes out of the sea, but whether the sea levels are shrinking, as Tuhin was mentioning. I think that is of a greater point. Now, he mentioned about these recent rallies and recent, action by Congress. I would grant him. There has been a lot of, I think there has been traction. There has been engagement in these things. But what have the engagements been there for? Even if you see today's rally, definitely price rise is a big issue. But you said it was a massive rally, but from whatever pictures I've seen, there was still a lot of empty spaces within that Maidan. But more importantly, the focus really seemed to be Rahul Gandhi. We want Rahul Gandhi as president. Even before this, the so-called, the protests, which they again talked of doing, whether about the price rise or violence, was essentially for the family fighting against the ED interrogations of the family. So whenever it comes to the family, there is a rallying. But whether it's on the issues, I repeat, price rise is a big issue, but is Congress really going after it in a systematic, cogent, coherent manner? Rahul Gandhi flies in this morning, almost like a visitor, to Delhi, and then goes on to speak.
No, he's going to Gujarat also tomorrow. Then he starts off his Bharat Jodo Yatra. I'll come back to you, Sandeep. Arshpreet, I want to ask you, this is a very valid point which Sandeep Ghosh has raised. You may dismiss of Captain Amrinder Singh by saying he himself lost. You may dismiss of everyone who leaves the Congress party. But when they leave the Congress party is also not winning. Maybe at some point of time the damage is being done. And second, is it going to be a Bharat Jodo Yatra, or is it going to be a plank to relaunch Rahul Gandhi yet again? Because I did see those posters at the Ramlila Maidan where they're saying Rahul Gandhi wapas aao, Congress Adhyaksh ban jao.
Number one, I'll start with the first question. You start with Captain Amrinder Singh. Now, this is what goes on to suggest the double standards of the BJP party. They say that the Congress party has this certain corrupt leader, this kind of a leader, and then he goes on to forge an alliance with Captain Amrinder Singh's party, which is Punjab Lok Congress. And Captain Amrinder Singh had IT-ED cases pending against him. So therefore, this shows how the BJP has a double yardstick, double standard when it comes to choosing leaders. And second of all, they have a big problem with Parivarvad. And why, for God's sake, did you induct
please ask me this question. Answer this question. If you don't win elections, how are you going to have the last laugh?
Number one, winning elections. See, there was a time, if you remember, that the BJP party was at 2 seats in the Lok Sabha.
I'm talking about Congress, you're talking about BJP.
If you would kindly allow me the time to answer, since you've invited me, allow me the time to answer.
Please go ahead.
The BJP, there was a time back in the day when the BJP was at 2 seats, and now they are a two-tanki Satta party. And therefore, we are still in a way, way, way better position than what the BJP was back in the day.
God, I can't believe you're saying this.
Number three, I think it is unbelievable as to the amount of perception you've already drawn. If you want to have a fair debate, allow me to speak. Number three, you just said yourself, you attributed a statement to Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad, and you said that Mr. Azad just said that 1 year ago I had put before an issue before the CWC. So that is 1 year. What about the last 7 years? Why did you not speak then? Why did you not have a problem then? Why did you not quit the party then if nobody was hearing you? And number 4, if he gives advice, you know, he has a lot of experience. If somebody else gives advice, he's probably come there because of sycophancy. I think we need to, have better analyzing and analytical skills so that we can see that people have risen out of experience, out of hard work, and out of, their time that they have given to the party. And number 6, leaders that lean towards the BJP, that go into the BJP, there is a reason behind that. Why a lot of leaders leave the party, why a lot of leaders, last point hai. So therefore, there's a reason as to why so many leaders do. BJP has apparently attained an expertise, in toppling governments and using the carrot and stick policy with regards to leaders. Goa, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Assam, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, Meghalaya. These are the states where they have toppled the government.
At least in Madhya Pradesh, you were caught napping. At least in Madhya Pradesh, you were caught napping, Harshpreet. I think it's a little unfair that you will not allow me to ask this question. No.
They have undermined the mandate of the people.
Okay, I've heard you out. I've heard you out. Can I ask? No. Harshpreet, come on, this is a little unfair.
May I complete? I'm just completing. After that, I'll give you all your answers. So if we were to go that way, on the way that the BJP party is functioning upon, I think it will be the most black day in the history of Congress party if we were to start doing what the BJP does in order to gain leaders. We'd rather have them
Ashpreet, I think it is very unfair now. Tuhin Sinha, I want you to come in here. Ashpreet, please. Ashpreet, please. No. Don't try those. No. Ashpreet, Tuhin, I want to ask you this last question before we wind up this debate over here. Does the BJP actually become a kind of a washing machine? You call them corrupt, वो आ जाते हैं, and suddenly there are no cases against them. Tuhin, please, if you can keep your reply brief because we've really run out of time.
Not at all. The conviction rate has been low, but then the acquittal rate has perhaps been equally low. These are all complicated cases of money laundering, which at some point, many of these cases have to be shut down because of lack of evidence. But at the same time,
but why is it there's a lack of evidence when they join the BJP? That's what the Congress is asking.
It's not that. It is just that some cases take a lot of time. We have the example of Lalu Yadav, who was convicted 25 years after the Fodder case came out.
Okay, I'm going to give the last word really to Sandeep Ghosh. Thank you, Tuhin, and thank you very much, Ashpreet. Sandeep, what do you make of this? Do you think Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra becomes very, very critical because it's also going to come bang in the middle of the Gujarat as well as Himachal elections? And should the Congress party lose in these two states, the Yatra will be under a cloud?
See, Pallavi, I am confused, and I think a lot of your viewers would also be confused because we started discussing about this today's Halla Bol and Ghulam Nabi Azad, and all that we did was discuss a lot about BJP's how their ethics, how they whitewash people who move over and the rest of it, and nothing about Congress. That's the problem with Congress, I think, today. They have this talking Tokyo, looking London syndrome. Now, even this Bharat Jodo Andolan, what is going to happen is that 117 or 140 people who are going to act, how much of that Rahul Gandhi himself is going to traverse? We don't know how many times he'll take all things. And then finally, they're not even touching places like Gujarat and some of the critical states. So what is it going to really achieve? And from what I gather in the ground, I am no fan of either side, that they're having a problem to mobilize people locally because, Pallavi, at the end of the day, to get even 100 people locally, you need a local cadre. And if you were to simply take spending 1,000 rupees for 100 people, there is a lack of rupees to be spent in small cities, which today not too many of the Congress leaders are willing to bet, with Congress remaining only 2 states. And not knowing
Okay. Now we are going to wind up on this. Sandeep, just one little clarification. He's going to go to Gujarat and Himachal, not be a part of Yatra, but he's going to take those detours from Yatra or breaks from the Yatra to go to these pole-bound states and then, of course, come back and join the Yatra.
That he's going,
Thank you very much, Sandeep.
Not the Yatra.
Okay. Fine. So this is all we have time for now. Thank you very much, Tuheen. Thank you very much, Arshpreet. Thank you very much, Sandeep, for joining me this evening. Well, we'll just have to wait and watch for the yatra to begin on 7th. Concludes in another 4 to 5 months' time. In the middle of that, election results in Himachal and Gujarat. That's going to be a real test for the Congress as for Rahul Gandhi. We are now going to shift our focus to a tragic news which came late this evening. Former chairman of the Tata Group, Cyrus Mistry, died in a road accident in Palghar. He was on his way to Mumbai where his car rammed into a divider and crashed. Cyrus Mistry was travelling with 3 other people, out of which one, identified as Jahangir Pandole, has also died and other 2 have been hospitalized. The injured have been identified as Dr. Anahita Pandole and her husband Darius Pandole. The horrendous accident has sent shockwaves across the business world and political circles. Condolences have been pouring in from both business tycoons and politicians across party lines. Cyrus Mistry is survived by his wife and 2 sons.
This devastating news that has come in of the sad demise of Cyrus Mistry, what do you have to say?
Well, it's absolutely devastating. We have lost 2 friends, our friend Jahangir as well as our friend Cyrus. So we've lost 2 very, very close friends. They're like family to all of us, the Pandols and the Mistries. So for us, I mean, I can't even believe that something like this has happened, and 2 more other people in the car are hurt. So we are just coordinating, how to bring them back and just make sure they are okay. A very solid, sturdy kind of a guy, he was. Very, very low-key, very reserved. You could never, I mean, if Cyrus Mistry walked into Taj, people wouldn't even know he's Cyrus Mistry, the owner of the Taj. He lived a very structured life, a very simple, low-key life, worked very long hours. I mean, I just still can't believe it. I mean, I really don't even know what to say.
दोपहर को 3:15 बजे अहमदाबाद से मुंबई जाने वाले रोड पे सूर्या रिवर के ऊपर का जो ब्रिज है, वो ब्रिज के डिवाइडर पे डैश होके मर्सिडीज गाड़ी का एक्सीडेंट हुआ है। उसमें 4 लोग सवार थे, उसमें से 2 लोग स्पॉट पे ही मृत घोषित किए गए और बाकी के जो 2 लोग थे वो जख्मी है, उनको रेनबो हॉस्पिटल में शिफ्ट किया गया है जो वापी में है।
कैसे हुआ तो पता नहीं, लेकिन जब मैं उधर पहुंचा तब गाड़ी ब्रिज को टक्कर मार रही थी और तभी मैं मेरे गाड़ी से उतर के वो मर्सिडीज का दरवाज़ा खींच के निकाला। तब तक उसमें 4 लोग पड़े थे और लेडी ड्राइव कर रही थी गाड़ी। लेडी को मैं बाहर नहीं निकाला, वो जो पीछे पड़े थे ना उनको बाहर निकाला, एम्बुलेंस में डाल दिया। हाँ, एयरबैग खोला था सामने का और साइड का। लेडी के साइड में, ड्राइव सीट के साइड में बैठे थे, वो भी होश में थे, उनको भी लग गया था।
It's a huge loss to the business world, and also he leaves behind a deep, passionate legacy. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.
Unstoppable 19-week sprint. India's indisputable #1. CNN News 18.